All right, guys, I am excited to be joined by the American Gangster, one of my favorites to ever do it in the game, one of the best, most entertaining trash talkers, and pioneer in the spaces. Back here on Submission Radio, Chael Sonnen.
Well, look at this. I've made it to the big time. I am happy to be here. Nice to reconnect. You know, I remember the good old day where you used to invite me somewhat regularly, but then you ran off with your fancy schmancy friends on your fancy schmancy podcast, but you finally decided to have me back. I appreciate that.
I came back with my tail between my legs, Chael.
Yes, begging, scratching at my back door, begging me to take you in.
Dude, it's been 13 years. I gotta ask you, did Big Nog really feed that bus a carrot?
Does this ever happen to you? Can you see this? Does this ever happen to you where you go to get a chapstick and then it's empty? Like you can see the stick in the middle, but there's no stuff around it. How do you? But your lips hurt so bad that you'll shove that in and just hope.
I'm an Australian man. I don't use chapstick.
Really? What do you guys use? Like a Carmex or something? I mean, your lips still get dry. You're not like immune from getting dry lips just because you're in a country forged on criminals, are you?
I'm just afraid someone sees me and they're still buying one.
What's
and I
it
won't
feel
make
like,
it back
by the
to
way?
the car.
What's it feel like to know that your entire country is forged on England's criminals? Is there a bad thing? Like if you and the British were to play a soccer game, would that come up? Do people still bring up that piece of history?
We get it quite a bit, but you know what's good? We're far away from everything. And right now, we're just happy about that.
You know, I told you so. I told you so around 2014 about a guy named Craig Jones. And I remember I was trying to convince you. I was telling you all about this guy. I found this guy. And now look at Craig. Craig's like this internet star. We would be lucky to get an interview with Craig. That's how the world has shifted. But I told you about it. I don't think you'd ever heard of him. I believe I'm the one that brought this to your audience. And I've never been thanked, I have noticed.
Well, I would thank you, but he's actually from the gym where I initiated my training. So
did you start prior to 2014?
Yeah.
Oh.
I used to actually create content at Aspinall. I used to be the marketing guy, absolute MMA.
That's what this conversation should be about. You know, I'm really not flip-off guy. I'd like to take the flip-off back. I'm really not flip-off guy. That didn't feel right when I did that. I'd like to take back the middle finger from you.
Let me ask you this. 13 years ago, you said Big Nog fed a bus a carrot, and I need to know, did that actually happen?
Yes. Yes, that really did happen. He attempted to feed it a carrot. It was both of the Nogueira brothers, and it was the first time that they were in America. Their first time in America, they brought them right to Las Vegas, which is a big city. I mean, you can be an American guy and get eaten up, you know, by a big city like by Las Vegas. But yes, it was a bus. A bus had pulled up. They thought it was a horse. Well, and they were, whoa, big fella. And one of them was petting, and the other one, they had a carrot. They were trying to stick it in the grill. And I never knew if they just needed a ride and they didn't understand, you know, that it was a couple of coins or maybe you buy a ticket. I was trying to help out. I didn't know if they needed a ride or what, but it looked like they were handled. They were just trying to like take it home or check on it in some way. I guess they were animal lovers. I guess.
Yeah, they were going to take that thing home with them, right?
Yeah.
They were taking their stuff off. They were going to.
Yeah, the one was taking his belt off. I have a hard time telling, but he was taking like he was going to lasso it, like he was going to old school lasso it, and the other was trying to feed it again. Whoa, big fella. I remember him saying that.
Dude, I got to say, me and the media guys, we pop hard for all your interviews. There's a lot of classics here. There's the Jim Rome one, the Dan Labatard one. Of course, there's your classic other appearances off the record. I got to ask, now that you look back on all of your amazing masterpieces, is there one that stands out to you? Is there
right
one
now?
Where you're like, man, this is good. Right now.
It's actually happening right now with you being such a smug prick about the Craig Jones thing. The whole, I knew him. Oh, me and Craig are boys. I basically showed him his knee bar. Like this whole vibe that you're putting out right now. I discovered Craig Jones. I brought Craig Jones to the masses. I told you about Craig Jones. Do you know how big Craig is right now? I just heard from somebody that Craig might be retired. And maybe that's old news to you, but I mean, I just heard very good authority. I heard this from Mason Fowler, and Mason said, Chael, he said, you know, the grappling business is unlike the business of any other sport. Like you work to get really good so that you don't do it anymore. Like in most sports, you work to get really good, so then you can be really good. You can be king and like enjoy being king and beating everybody for a while. He was explaining this to me that it's not like that in grappling. You work to get to a point to where your participation is just through the practice room and seminars and DVDs. And he said, I think Craig's there. He said, I can't imagine why he would risk any of that to take anyone on. He said he is a massive star.
He's a huge star, man. I mean, it should be called, he should be called Dennis Jones, really, because I discovered him. But
yeah, well, I just wonder why. Can we talk about Craig for a second? Like, you were trying to grit off the Craig topic. Craig.
No, he doesn't even know who I am, bro.
What are you talking about? I mean, you were getting off the Craig Jones subject very fast. I'm just wondering why. Is there more to that?
No. He went. Lucky Giles.
Is there like something to?
Yeah, Lucky Giles initiated from Malvern MMA, where I was training, and then I did work with Absolute MMA. We did some promo stuff. But the guy's always been a pioneer, and the stuff that he's doing with CGI, and just the fact that he controls all the content and he's able to pay the athletes, the guy's a pioneer. I went out with him a few weeks ago. He doesn't really know who I am. I could barely hang in there for like three minutes. These guys are on another level. And you were on another level, my friend, when it came to...
It is another game. It is another game with him, yes.
Yeah, I don't have what it takes.
Craig, I mean, it's a different... That is a niche, but my goodness, that niche always has a leader. But they always have a leader.
They always have a leader. There's always...
hold of that thing right by the neck. It's been fun to watch. All right.
Yeah. Well, you, my friend, you were one of the best, most entertaining, biggest pioneers in the game. You still are. I got to ask, my friends Brian Campbell and Luke Thomas had a conversation about the UFC, how there's lack of star power. They've got a star problem. I want to get it from your perspective, man. Do you think the UFC right now is in a slump? You were the one who, drew the big pay-per-view numbers. You were able to build big fights. And right now we're finding a lot of criticism from fans. We've got the Alex Pereiras, but Alex lost. We got Ilya Tapura, but he's in between divisions. And without those guys, even though there's champions, obviously Islam's, a draw. There's a lot of fighters people don't know, champions people don't recognize, and pay-per-views people don't care about as much.
Sure. Hey, and Islam just became a draw. I mean, that's a very fascinating thing too. Islam he's ingrained, and you can put him on a poster now anywhere in the world, but he just became a draw. The night that he took on Money Moicano, they were sweating bullets because there was one opponent for Islam, which is Sarukian. And when Sarukian came off the bill, they didn't know you could just interchangeably put somebody in. I mean, I will just tell you, I was there live, and the tension and the defeat that was felt in the back just because he wasn't quite over. He is now, I think, doing things like the Money Moicano fight on no notice. I think that's what legends are made of. But it does go very fast. I love what you're saying about Ilya Tapura. I mean, we got our biggest draws. That would be anybody with the last name of Diaz, of course, McGregor, and sadly, for me, my nemesis, George Masvidal. I mean, those are three of the biggest guys, and they've all got one thing in common, which is they didn't win their last fight. And I'm just sharing for you, like the real star. Now I'm having to amend that because Nate Diaz did, but I'm just sharing for you, like, it's a very interesting time. And now we've got Ilya Tapura, who's the face of an entire country. The way the story is being told, relinquished a belt. There's been no official statement. And if you were to go and read the information we have, it looks like he was stripped of a belt. And I'm not suggesting he was. I'm just telling you, that's what it looks like. We have not had a guy vacate in the past where the announcement of the vacation and the announcement of his title fight at the adjoining weight class weren't announced simultaneously. I mean, if you didn't know better, it looks like he got stripped. We don't know what's going on there or when you're going to use him. Then we've got O'Malley, who's a massive star, and it's unclear when he's coming back. There's even a rumor that he's going to be out for 2025 and a simultaneous rumor that he's going to return to a title fight soon. Like the announcement's going to come soon. So
2-3 weeks in the next 2-3 weeks, apparently, according to his team.
And I just agree with your point. We just got an announcement that Poirier is going to fight Max, and those are both big stars, but they've done that dance twice, and one of them's a BMF champion, but are they going to put the belt up is a little bit unclear, and it's a retirement fight, so before you get too excited about it, it's the last time that you can get it. I know the point that you're trying to make, and it never goes away in this industry. There always has to be a story to tell, and it gets very misled what keeps the lights on over here. And I will hear all the time exciting fights or, oh crap moments. And none of those things are accurate. They're things that a leader would say so that fellow competitors don't see what it is that they're actually doing. Listen, it's not good fights, there's one thing that keeps the lights on, and it's anticipation. You can have the greatest fight in the world. If that gets revealed after the window of pay-per-view button to buy is closed, you have nothing. You have to look forward to the match prior to the match, whether it turns out to be a dud or the greatest ever. And I do feel at times that guys are missing that. I do feel at times that they take that for granted, and I think that they owe us. They owe you and I, who we're just storytellers too, right? We're just sitting over here telling stories right now. I think that they owe it to guys like us. They got to help us out a little bit. What is this for? What's on it? How did we get here? The 5 W's: who, what, when, why, and where. If you're doing promotion and you do not include who, what, when, why, and where, you have not told me a story.
I find it interesting because you used to take like a couple of minutes every moment you got on TV. If you had a fight coming up, you would make those minutes count. And now I feel like also social media takes us behind the scenes of a lot of these athletes. We almost know a little bit too much about them. There's almost no aura or like mystique about them like there was with you. I got to ask you about Alex Pereira as well. He was on Ariel Helwani's show. He spoke a little bit about, he doesn't want to make excuses, but he kind of had like an injury going on Ankalaev. What was your take on sort of this whole, I don't want to say, train going off the rails for Pereira, but the fight didn't really work out to his favor. A lot of fans were a little bit off-put. People are saying he lost his aura. Now he's saying he might have had an injury. Do you think this kind of helps his rebuild back into potentially trying to regain some of that aura and star power that he had? Do you think he can come back if he goes out there and beats Ankalaev?
Okay. Can I tell you, it turns out you were right. If I was to back up 10 minutes ago when we started this, and I came in and I wanted to talk about Greg Jones and these other guys, and you kept trying to steer back to me, it's now clear that you're right. In hindsight, I am, in fact, the most interesting man. We should keep it on what I think. Let's do it your way moving forward. Now, Alex Pereira, I will tell you, in my life, I've been around 2 men where I could feel something. There was an energy. I think you used the word aura. First time I saw Mike Tyson, and the first time I saw Wanderlei Silva in person, like you could feel this glow, like there was a special something. And Alex,
is that when Wanderlei tried to fight you? That was later.
No, that first time I saw Wanderlei, he actually helped me. We saw. I don't know if he remembers it. I don't know if he remembers it to this day. I was a young guy in Randy Couture's gym, and I ended up sparring with Wanderlei, which is a terrible. And I didn't have my mouthpiece.
Yeah.
And I didn't
was
know
he trying to take your head off?
Going.
Apparently, he was a rough sparring partner, from what I hear.
And I didn't know how his English was, so I was trying to show. I kept pulling my lips back. I was trying to show him like no mouthpiece, and he understood. He said, "I understand. I understand." And we did an entire round, and he never threw a single punch, not one.
What?
He just moved and he covered, and he did a couple of foot pushes or whatever. Never threw a single punch. And I was like, "Wow, he really." And I was a complete stranger at a gym. At any rate, yeah, no, it turns out like Wanderlei didn't always hate me. He's actually been very nice to me at certain times. But I don't know if he knows that story. I don't know if he remembers that. He was a big star. I was at home on the couch, but okay. But I want to tell you this, because Alex Pereira is in a very interesting situation. Look, I'm not sold on the idea. We'll never know. It's all a guess, but I'm just not sold on the idea that going against Ankalaev Part 2 is the right move. Listen, the first one, when I go back to my word of anticipation, that wasn't a great night of business. That wasn't the fight. That fight was detoured for a while. I mean, Ankalaev's been ranked number 1. It wasn't quite worth the risk. You got the sport's biggest star. Ankalaev, there's a risk they could switch chairs. It turned out they did. So how do you indemnify that, or how do you remedy that? And apparently the answer is going to be that we're going to run it back. Now, I just want to tell you what a close call this was, and this barely made it. I mean, this was like 24 hours apart. Alex Pereira was one of the most interesting men we had in our sport, because he was going to be used as a pawn on the chessboard to get Aspinall versus Jones together. If Jon Jones kept holding out, that opportunity was just merely going to slide to Alex Pereira. And Pereira versus Aspinall is one hell of a consolation prize if you can't get Jones versus Aspinall. And that's right off the bat. That's before you have 2 months of promoting and storytelling. And I'm only telling you, they got a deal done with Jon Jones and Aspinall, at least verbally, the night before. This is inside information. You will not have heard the story anywhere else.
Wow, thank you.
Deal done verbally the night before Pereira versus Ankalaev. And I'm only telling you that because if they had not got that deal done, then Pereira would have, in fact, been a pawn on the board. He would, in fact, right now, even off a loss, be a heavyweight. And they would have got him out of the division completely. And the only reason that was no longer needed, opening the idea to a rematch with Ankalaev, a fight that wasn't heavily anticipated in the first place, is because they ended up getting that piece of business done. I just think that's very fascinating. Not to mention, 3 days before Ankalaev and Pereira went down, Pereira got a very weird call out. It was a very sincere. It was a very real call out from Usyk. Usyk comes out and says he wants to box him. And I'm not predicting for you that would have happened and materialized, but I would predict for you that Pierre would have got a hold of the microphone and finally given us his response, and he sure as hell wasn't going to back down. And that would also be a very interesting conversation to have. But instead, we're going to rematch them. And I'm a very big Alex Pereira fan, I must tell you, on a personal level, but also of his professional and his work inside the cage. I got to tell you, there was nothing within that first fight, whether there was illness, injury, or a combination of both. There was nothing about that first fight that would lead a reasonable analyst to believe you're going to have a different outcome in the second fight.
I was in Sydney, UFC 312. Alex Pereira was there. We were all like, what is this guy doing here? He's doing about 300 dinners and appearances. And I mean, I don't know if that caught up with him. I don't know if this is the injury. Do you think he can regain the aura though? Or do you think, and what would you do if there wasn't Ankalaev and okay, this might be another tough fight for him? How do you spin this off to make the most of Alex Pereira during a time where you don't even have people to headline, right? The UFC cards.
Right. Well, and whatever we're supposed to see in that first fight, and that first fight was 4-1. I mean, it was 4 rounds to 1. It really was not overly competitive. There was some really well things done by Pereira, such as stopping the takedowns. We didn't know that he had his ability. It was a pretty slow pace, and there wasn't a lot done. I'm just suggesting for you, there was nothing we saw that would make us think, even at a slow pace, even at a drawn-down, action-packed night or lack thereof, there's nothing to believe that rounds 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are going to be any different. And whatever it is that Pereira is supposed to have learned in that job experience, why would we not believe an equal amount would be learned by Ankalaev? Whatever we're supposed to believe that Pereira gained to do a better job next time, why do we not believe that Ankalaev also did? I mean, Ankalaev's the one that had his takedown stuffed. So in theory, he's the one that would have felt and know where the adjustments are to get the big guy off his feet. And then once he gets him on the ground, I mean, it's going to be, I can't imagine that's where the judges are going to see it his way. I'm only telling you that it is a surprise, and I think that it's a risk. And the way we got Pereira to 205 pounds, it's contrary to what most people remember. Most people's minds have played a trick on him. People believe Pereira got to 205 because he cleaned out 185, and that is not accurate. He got beat. When he got beat at 85 and he no longer has the belt, he no longer has to stay as the head of the division. He is free like anyone else to go anywhere that he wants. So if we wanted to get him to heavyweight, it wasn't by beating Ankalaev, thus cleaning out 205. It would have been to get him beat, which we did. Our opportunity to bump him up, to be able to take on the winner of a Jones, Aspinall, or any which scenario that might go, be a backup fighter, or however you'd want to do there. But I think we can all agree that round robin is very fascinating. The way to do it has already been done, and I'm not certain we should not have taken full advantage. The fight was close. He stopped the takedowns. It added to the story. Let it go. There was nothing embarrassing about it. But if you rematch and you drop 2 straight, particularly if it's dominant, if it goes 4-1 like this one did, now we're talking about a combined 8-2. That's where some embarrassment does set in.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good point. It's like, hey, let's leave some, questions there. He wasn't 100%. He didn't train that well. had the takedown defense. Let's get him in there against like a Cyril Gane. See what happens there while Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall fight. That's a great idea. By the way, Jon Jones, not very happy with you, Chael. Had a bit of a response for you. The lesser man talking about territory he's never been. Huh? That's
was that a response to me?
That was to you, my friend, apparently, according to all the
Really?
MMA experts. Is this the first time you're seeing this?
Yeah, well, it says 13 minutes ago. Was that literally, or did you save this from yesterday?
That was a few days ago.
I only say that
because he deletes tweets, I think.
I only say it because I feel like I've kind of been more times than other times in my life. I feel that I've kind of been a Jon defender. I'm usually the first to Larry to drive the Barry Jon train. I just haven't quite found myself doing that lately. So
you almost beat him. He had that toe coming out of his foot. Couple more minutes, he would have won.
Oh my God, ripped his toe off. It was disgusting. You should have seen the guy. I reached out. I ripped his toe off. I threw it into the second row. You should have seen kids. Man, they were screaming. They were horrified. Those are the breaks, right? He knew the risk. He knew the risk when he got in there with me. That was up to the referee and the commission. They're the ones that missed it. Jon felt that pain. He's still stumbling around on 9 toes. Why do you think he can't fight Aspinall for another 6 months? He can't fight him for 6 months because his balance is thrown off. His balance is thrown off because the linear champion, the real champion, the one that beat Jon, ripped his toe off, and he's trying to stumble around on 9 little piggies.
He's still looking for his toe. What do you make of this whole fiasco? 6 months. I was talking to John Anik just a couple of days ago. He thinks that we might see it in December. Means Tom Aspinall's going to be sitting out for a while. But then if you're Tom Aspinall, it's like there's no one to fight anyway in the division. What do you make of this whole fiasco? Do you actually think we see this happen this year?
Yes, I do. And I'm going to predict for you November, New York. And that's not based on any inside scoop, by the way. If Anik turns out to get it right, or I turn out to get it right. But I just know in November they're playing New York. And in December, they're playing Vegas. That's a massive fight. Maybe you take it to the fight capital of the world. Maybe. Or maybe you take it to the venue that's produced your largest live gate in history. And so I guess we'll see how that whole thing plays out. And I don't overly care. Listen, I will tell you one thing, though. Jon Jones wants 6 months. I don't believe that Jon meant it when he said it. I don't think Jon ever knew that this was going to be a statement that he could make that would then stick around for 3 weeks and everybody be bouncing this back and forth. I don't think he really meant it. I mean, I know when Jon sat down at the table the very first time he ever spoke about Tom Aspinall and he said, I need $30 million. He didn't mean that. They were just words that came, then they ended up sticking and we all did something with it. And what a crazy amount of money he asked for. He didn't actually mean it. And I'm only telling you that he didn't mean that he needs 6 months, but now they put him in a position where he almost has to demand that he get 6 months because this has been so big. And Jon does have a history of making a statement, whether it's a drunken tweet or not, people grabbing onto it, and then Jon trying to rework the future to actually make that statement, one that he never cared about in the first place. He has a history of trying to make some of those things so. It's a very odd thing to do, but we mark out for our own gimmick, right? We go to the meeting, we play a character, and then we forget that it's a character. It happens all the time. And one thing about it, though, go get your money. The money doesn't change. Whatever you're going to get paid, whatever the pay-per-view, whatever the business, get it as quick as you can and get done. The only thing that putting 6 months between Jon and Tom would do, and I don't know who wins between those boys. There's a reason we got to walk them out there and do the actual fight. Nothing will change, though. If they fight tonight, if they fought at Madison Square Garden in November, if they fight in the street in a month, if they fight in 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, or 6 years, whoever is better will win 100% of the time. And I know as fight analysts, we love to rework it. There was just a topic 2 weeks ago that came out, and it resurfaces every couple of years, but it had to do with a fight in Australia. It had to do with Holly Holm versus Ronda Rousey. And Ronda, too many things, and she got on an airplane too quick, and she agreed to it too quick, and the training camp was too quick. You could have slowed that down. You could have changed the dates. You could have changed the venue any way your little mind could fantasize. The only thing you would never change is the outcome. And it's a fun thing to talk about. And trainers love to do that. Trainers love to come out and tell the world, and the guy needed this, and he needed more sleep, or he needed to start eating these macros. what they don't tell you is on the back door, they're trying to charge that guy 10% for that information. I mean, that's just a business. That is a business and nothing more. There is no sporting event of my life, not just of combat. There is no sporting event of my life where the right person didn't win. And you could redo the circumstance any way you want to talk. The same person still would win.
I remember when we were there at that fight, no one even wanted to interview Holly Holm before the fight. There was like a line to Ronda Rousey, and then I went up to Holly, did a quick interview. I was like one of the few because no one even thought she had a chance. And then when she kicked Ronda's head off into the stands, people tried to rip the chairs off the ground. It was one of the craziest scenes I've ever been at when it comes to live MMA. And dude, I got to ask you about your old division. I mean, middleweight right now is in an interesting spot too, right? Because you got DDP, he's on this great run. And the next assignment for him is going to be Khamzat Chimaev. And Khamzat has that ability to be the next big, massive star in the UFC. And DDP has the ability to be over with everybody if he beats Khamzat in this fight, because this is another legend that he fights. But the question is, with Khamzat, when is he going to be able to fight? How active can he be? This is a guy that built his legacy on fighting every other day. And now we can't find him. And now we don't know when he's going to fight. Now the UFC struggles to book him in. Do you think Khamzat is going to be able to line up his ducks in a row to become this huge megastar where he's going to be able to win the belt and defend it over and over and over and over? Or do you think this is a situation where potentially there's a lot of money left on the table because we just can't figure out a way for Khamzat to stay active due to health or other reasons in the UFC?
Dennis, I am so appreciative that is your take on this, because that's exactly right. I mean, Chimaev gets over in the marketing department unexpectedly. I mean, he was a media darling like only two other had ever done, Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey. The third media darling of our industry, where, I mean, he was shopping. He was he was buying groceries with a cart, and this did hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. He was driving through traffic, and I want to say it was like with Michael Bisping, but it was with Darren Till. It did over 1 million views on YouTube. Like, this guy could not go wrong. The world loved him. And the one accidental piece of marketing that they happened to be given is that he was fighting every other week in a different weight class against anybody you wanted with no complaint. Now it's the exact opposite. You can't get an interview with him. We don't even know for sure. I mean, we used to watch him grocery shop and drive to the store. We don't know for sure what country he's living in. It really is a peculiar thing. He's very clearly the number one contender, and there's somebody in that region of the world with some influence that very much wants to make sure that that happens. But why isn't it happening? I think that that's a fair question, too. DDP would like to know when this was happening. The whole rest of the division, Dulce and all the other guys that are trying to get their comeuppance are kind of standing back and waiting, and they acknowledge that Chimaev's earned the right. But when? Get out a calendar. You know what your dates are. You know where your venue is. And even if it's a secret from guys like you and I, you guys know where you can get him to and back. Do you have a goddamn venue in one of those places or not? If you don't, show your cards. If you do, book the fight. It's getting to a point that it's annoying. Anytime one guy, particularly a non-champion, holds up an entire division, we have a problem. We have a moral problem in the locker room. I mean, you're going to crush the drive of the entire room. Like, there's certain things you've got to clear up, and there's certain dreams that you've got to push it forward, whether it's for other guys or not, so that you can get your own going. I'm saying moral. I feel like that's the wrong word. Morality. That's not the word. What's the word I'm talking about? Where I'm talking about a motivation to others. It's not morality.
Well, maybe like the excitement, the drive, the inspiration for these guys to want to keep going. So
all of those words, just none of those are the one I was looking for. Yes, it means inspiration. It means inspiration. At any rate, you will take that from everybody. I mean, if you're holding up a division, you take a guy. I'll go back to Dolis. He knows he's not getting the opportunity, but he also knows that he's on track to someday get it. And when you hold up the whole division, you will just morale. You will crush the morale of the boys room. And it is a big deal, man. You got Chimaev or not? He hasn't really spoke on that. His manager hasn't really spoke on that. It has been very unclear, and he's something special. And he definitely is the clearest number one contender we have in any division. It is clearly his fight, but book it or announce that you're not going to book it. It's one of the two.
The crazy thing is the champion DDP, he's been after this guy for the last few fights. He told me that in Sydney he wanted to fight him. Now he's saying he's trying to fight him. I just haven't seen a situation where the champ is almost chasing the contender more than the contender is chasing the champ. I suppose it's the Tom Aspinall, Jon Jones situation, if you call Jon Jones the heavyweight champion, which is arguable. But this is another situation that's pretty crazy. And by the way, Chael, when I said you were coming on the show, I got a few fan questions come through. And I got a few of these ones where they asked if you could pick anyone from this generation to fight while you were in your prime, and you're still in your prime now, of course. Who would it be? It got me thinking, man. Middleweight division, so many big names I would have loved to see you mix it up with, right? Like you built a lot of the fights that you had. You made those fights massive. And you built a lot of names in the UFC. I think you and Michael Bisping really did a massive job for the UFC in keeping it going through some difficult times. Can I ask you about a couple of names and your thoughts on what you would have thought about if you got a chance to fight them in your prime?
Of course.
All right. The first name I want to ask you about is a man that is massive for this area. You know him, of course, from being one of the best middleweight champions of all time. I think this would have been amazing. You coming in, sort of putting your face in his chest and building this fight, Israel Adesanya.
Oh.
What do you think you guys could have done in terms of business? What do you think you guys could have done in terms of a massive blockbuster fight?
There was a kid. There was this skinny kid, and to this day, I don't know if it's a picture of him as a young boy or if he took a completely different black child and posted. I truly don't know because it's got the same avatar. Goes under Stylebender MMA. And the first time I ever hear from this guy, he's like 16 years old in New Zealand, and he's telling me off. I'm getting ready to fight Anderson Silva, and I got this skinny kid under Stylebender MMA on Twitter giving me the business, and that skinny kid is Israel Adesanya. So my only answer to you is when you meet somebody in that fashion, there would never be a time when I would want to fight that person. That is now somebody that's on the journey with me. He's a young kid, and he's showing that he's got the same goal and dream. So I won't do that answer to you twice. I hate doing you what, but I wanted to fight Adesanya, or at least I wouldn't have wanted to fight Adesanya.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I feel like there was a point at Adesanya's career where people were still getting to know him. I almost feel like you having a feud with him, much like he did with many other people, would have almost blown up, that fight to an even bigger magnitude.
He had done his part. Adesanya could do his part of a
Oh, yeah.
That dude.
If people come to the table. People just didn't come to the table with him, right?
Yes, he would rinse and repeat the exact same approach to fight after fight. I mean, nobody has steered their own career. Nobody has picked their own opponents more often. And he would do it before he left the ring after a fight. I mean, he would grab that microphone and he would let everybody know who was next. And 100% of the time, he even had some crazy ideas. He called out a guy named Yoel Romero who was coming off of a loss. Not to mention, you got a skinny kickboxer from New Zealand against an Olympic medalist from Cuba. Like, it could not have been a worse call out. But he got it. He got them all. Nobody ever told that guy no. That guy had a formula and a recipe, and he would rinse and repeat. And as far as a media manipulative genius went, Adesanya's is as good as we've ever seen.
All right, I want to bring another man into the fray. You have an interesting history with Brazil. What do you think a build-up between you and Alex Pereira for the title would have looked like? Because, man, you already built some massive fights with guys that couldn't really speak English well. But Pereira's got the aura, right? So you could really use that to build a crazy fight.
I paid Alex Pereira a compliment. I was on a show just like that. I was talking with a guy named Daniel Cormier. And I used that word you just used, aura. I said I met Alex Pereira, and he had an aura around him. I said he came up and he shook my hand. And then he asked me through an interpreter, was that a feminine handshake? Or was my handshake strong enough? And I said, well, hey, I wasn't really testing. Give me another one. So he gave me a handshake. And I said, no, it's not feminine. You guys, that's a very good handshake. I told that story to Daniel Cormier. Well, somewhere when my rendition of that story gets interpreted to Alex Pereira, he thinks that when I use the word aura, that somehow meant like an energy, like we were going to fight with each other, and that he backed down. And he thought that I said that he had a girl's handshake.
Oh,
he
no.
completely misinterpreted this, but I was paying him a compliment. But then he tells Cormier, this just happened. This is like a week ago. He tells Cormier, Chael Sonnen, no Chama. Now, I don't totally know what Chama means, but I know when he says it that you'd rather have it than not have it. So he said, no Chama for Chael. And Pereira needs to know, yes, Chama Chael, or ostrich boot in your nuts. Those are Pereira's two choices. So when you ask me about a fight that could have been with Pereira, it could still be, unless he changes his mind publicly and gives me Chama.
Oh my God, I can't wait to see what happens next time you see him. That Chama has to be given, Alex. Let's get serious. Last one from me, Daniel Cormier, your opposing coach on The Ultimate Fighter. You had a crazy run at light heavyweight as well. You fought some massive legends. What do you think a fight between you two would have looked like, and also the build up to that? That would have been a fascinating one, man. I know you guys both have a lot of respect for each other, but DC's another guy that gets the game a little bit, right? He's another guy that's happy to build it.
I appreciate that. I think we could have some fun. Yes, he is a guy that gets the game. He's actually getting the game, as you say, even more now in retirement. And that's probably common for all of us. But I do watch him now, or I'll even overhear him talking to other guys, and I'll go, yes, he gets it. And that's something that he did it all the time. He was always interested in the game, but he didn't always get it. And that's from the fun build-up side. I'll share something with you. They say never talk about the practice room. Well, you can talk about the practice room if it did not go your way. And I had many workouts with Daniel, and they were full on. He was giving his best, and I was giving my best. And I will just tell you honestly, I could push him a lot harder than a lot of people thought maybe it was going to be at the time. Like I left there with a lot of people impressed, but I never left there having beaten him. So that's just the truth. I will concede Daniel would have been a little much. I was a top 85 pounder, but he was the top 205 pounder. And there is a difference. You know, there was a difference where I could feel him in certain positions. And he was too much. I think he did his best work at heavyweight. I sparred with him one day at heavyweight. And I will just tell you, it was a different guy. Well, he had an explosiveness in his hips. He had a power, particularly in his upper body. But it felt so much different. I felt guys that weigh 205, then a few years later, they're 235. This was totally different. He was a different animal. And I really think that if he could have done his whole career at heavyweight, it would have been even more beautiful career. He had a respect, and he was a coach of Cain Velasquez, so he did whatever it took, whatever his personal sacrifice he had to do to make sure that he didn't get in his own student's way, which was very honorable. But I'm telling you, everybody's got a number, and few guys ever get put in a position where they get to kind of experiment and play with that number. And his number was right around 248. 248 to 252. Daniel Cormier was a very dangerous man.
My God. What's it like coaching against him as we prepare
What
to
an
wrap?
incredible analysis. What an incredible analysis I just gave you. You cannot get that level of an analysis anywhere.
Anyway,
right?
except for Submission Radio.
I bet you start the show by insulting me about Craig Jones. This is how you start me. And look how I return the favor, though. What an incredible behind-the-scenes story I just gave to you exclusively. Maybe you'll think about that the next time you and your fancy schmancy friends decide to take 2 years between inviting me on segments. You and your new fan with your fancy little numbers on your fancy internet show. Maybe you'll consider the little people that once upon a time helped you to get here.
Hey, listen, you'll always be in our considerations, but money talks and the views talk, Chael. So it's just one of those things that we just always have to have you on. Hey, let me just quickly ask you, man, Ultimate Fighter, because everyone's excited. I think the Ultimate Fighter is one of those properties where.
Can I tell you something before you go on?
Of course.
Right. Now, you started this segment. You started this journey down what would have happened lane with a tweet from a fan that asked if I could have fought anybody.
Anybody.
And that answer would be easy. It would be Francis Ngannou, that mouthy little prick. I got to tell you.
What happened?
I have to tell you this. He's a very big man. And
yes,
I can't say that he's younger than me. Like, I can't say that he's picking on somebody out of his prime. We're very close to the same age. I am almost 50. He's almost 50. They list him as like 36. One thing we can agree on is he's at least 36. Nobody knows how old Francis is. I mean, just to start with that, okay? Number one.
Okay.
But two, he's a bigger man than me. And that doesn't matter if that's in the playground or not. Like the fourth grader should not be bullying the first grader. He just should not do that. He's a bigger person. I will take his bigness. I will shove it right up his ass. How dare Francis Ngannou? Really, how dare Francis Ngannou, as an active athlete, come to a mere commentator that is just sitting back and doing his best to observe something and then speak on it. Another one, if I don't get the Chama right, I got 2 gators, one for each of their nut sacks.
Wait, so Francis Ngannou.
It felt dirty when I said sacks, right? I should have just left it at nuts. There was something about the inclusion of sacks that made that a little bit more PG-13 than generally I would have wanted it, by the way.
All right.
They're not all home runs, all right? I mean, even Babe Ruth got on the mound and struck out sometimes, right? They're not all perfect hits.
You know what's going to be a perfect hit, though? The Ultimate Fighter. It goes down in May, towards the end of May, May 27th, I see here, you and Daniel Cormier locking horns, changing the Ultimate Fighter. Man, my favorite season, the last favorite season that I watched was you and Jon Jones. You really made that season entertaining. Tell me, what can people expect from this one? You got Colby Covington, friend of this show. He was on a couple of days ago talking about it on the show as one of your coaches. You got Daniel Cormier. He's got Michael Chiesa. There's all sorts of craziness happening. What can we expect from the season of The Ultimate Fighter?
Worked his ass off. He was over there twice a day. It was his weight class of 170 pounds. So he's tasked with taking the knowledge and experiences that he has and passing that to the minds and hearts of these other young men. But he went above and beyond and suited up. He got his hands dirty. I mean, he was pushing and pulling, and Colby worked so hard. He worked so hard. In between everything that he did, he would have a team of roughly 6 to 10 people at all times because they needed something. This was the video guy, and this was the social media guy, and this was the person helping with the schedule, and this was the person setting up tomorrow's workouts. Like, he runs his life almost like President Trump runs the White House, truly. Like Colby has AT, then he's got a guy waiting outside to get him from this appointment to the next appointment, and he goes around the clock. He'll even do a social life around 10 p.m. You know, it's one of those things where the last thing that Colby's doing is sleeping. He must get it somewhere, but I don't really know where. He did such a good job. My hopes and expectations for how he would embrace that process. He smashed that to pieces, not to mention everybody wants a piece of his time. The last thing that he has to do is go and get sweaty and bloody in a cage fight. He's got more opportunities and is pulled in more directions than anyone I've ever seen in MMA.
Well, dude, I can't wait for the season of Tough. It goes down in May. But you're the best of the best, an icon of icons, the man that changed things around, one of the best feuds, one of the best man in both divisions with the biggest names, whether it comes to, come on, man, UFC, whether it comes to other places like Bellator, you always brought it, the Tito Ortiz press conference. Chael Sonnen, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for spending some time with me on Submission Radio.
I would drop Francis with a nut shot. I would drop Pereira with a nut shot. I'd walk off laughing. I'd light up a big old mouth cannon and go right about my day like they weren't even laying there. I'd go, oh, Mr. Sonnen, why? Why? Chama. That's why.